Yeah, and it's like the real Tony Stark gets like back somehow, and there's like a moment where she's flying through, and he's like, "Who's that?" And she's like, "I'm Ironheart, Mr. Stark." And he's like, "I like that girl." And then he like goes to do something else. Like that would be like the level of something that I think would possibly happen.
In this, I'm not sure what they're meant to be, because this character isn't to be confused with Slug.
Slug, our hacker extraordinaire.
Who is also the exact opposite in the same show. I'm really confused.
Ironheart is practically unwatchable. Toot toot, Jerry laughs. Yes, there is an alphabet character. They admit Ironheart sucks, but look, they're getting ready to blame you for it, because Ironheart fulfills low expectations with weak narrative, poorly written characters, and
about the impacts that she's having on young Black girls. And I'm going to be completely honest, on Black women.
You know, this is yet another area that's getting vibrant. It's getting full in the way that it should.
What if I told you the next chapter of the MCU was just canceled in silence? That the rising star meant to replace Tony Stark has become the center of a firestorm so intense, Marvel might be quietly scrapping her entire future? Dominique Thorne was supposed to be the face of a bold new Marvel, but one fiery statement later, and the backlash hasn't stopped. Fans are furious, critics are baffled, and insiders say Disney is panicking. And now, whispers are swirling that Ironheart Season 2 is dead on arrival. Is this just a PR hiccup, or the start of Marvel's complete collapse? Let's dive in.
To really reckon with what that means for the life that she wants to lead.
It's very short-lived. It's brushed over really quickly, and she kind of reverts back to her old self.
But one thing is for certain about this series is that, old agendas aside, let's be very real about this. There's a lack of character development. The directing, the producing, the writing is just way off. It makes no sense at all, and it's very lackluster. There's no depth to it.
Does it defy the haters? Or is it another skippable series? It's always about you, right? It's always about the audience. It's amazing. It doesn't matter if it's the 2024 election or whether it's a Disney streaming product. It's always about like how evil is the actual voters? How evil are the audience?
It all started with a quote, just a few sentences that hit like a bomb. In the middle of Ironheart's rocky reception, Dominique Thorne fired back at critics. She told Marvel fans to stop focusing on our support for diversity and LGBTQ and stop claiming that as some form of a hidden message. Sounds like damage control, right? But to a huge chunk of the audience, it felt like a slap in the face. Instead of owning the show's messy writing, clunky pacing, or half-baked characters, Thorne's response seemed to lump all criticism into one box: hate speech. Fans who wanted better storytelling were suddenly being accused of being bigots. Within hours, social media exploded. Hashtags like Woke Marvel and Ironheart Flop were trending. One post read, "We wanted a hero with heart, not a lecture wrapped in CGI." Another said bluntly, "Criticism isn't hate. Stop pretending it is." Thorne's comments were meant to defend the show. Instead, they may have just buried it. And that was just the beginning. The numbers told a harsher story than any fan tweet ever could. When Ironheart dropped, expectations were sky high. Riri Williams had just stolen scenes in Wakanda Forever, and Marvel was banking on her to carry the franchise's future. But as the first week rolled in, the viewership was embarrassingly soft. Critics gave it a shaky 70% on Rotten Tomatoes. But the audience score? A brutal 50%. For a franchise built on billion-dollar films and cultural moments, that's not just a stumble, that's a faceplant. Compare that to Daredevil's return, which pulled in over 300 million minutes in just 3 days. Ironheart didn't even come close. Marvel refused to release the full viewership data, and fans immediately suspected why. The numbers were probably worse than anyone thought. Meanwhile, social media wasn't kind. One viral tweet read, "This makes Secret Invasion look like a masterpiece." Another said, "I'd rather rewatch Thor, Love and Thunder than sit through Ironheart again." Ouch. But was the show doomed from the start? On paper, Riri Williams had everything going for her. A genius teenage engineer, a Black female superhero, a spiritual successor to Iron Man. She should have been a fan favorite, but instead, Ironheart felt like a project built on a spreadsheet, not a story. From the very first episode, things felt off. Riri gets expelled from MIT and randomly joins a shady criminal crew, and no one blinks. The villain? A guy in a hoodie throwing around dollar store magic with zero explanation. Even the big AI twist that was teased? Rushed, forgettable, flat, and the pacing? 1 second it's dragging, the next it's sprinting, but never in the right direction. Fans weren't rejecting diversity, they were rejecting lazy writing dressed up as progress. One viewer summed it up perfectly. It's not representation we're mad about. It's the fact that Marvel gave us a cardboard cutout and expected us to clap. And while Marvel scrambled to save face, it dragged in a name that made things even messier. Enter Tony Stark. Not literally, but close enough. Behind the scenes, rumors say Marvel pulled out the big guns to save Ironheart. And by big guns, we mean Robert Downey Jr. According to industry insiders, RDJ was pressured into appearing in press materials to support Dominique Thorne in the show. But here's the twist. He wasn't happy about it. Sources claim he pushed back hard against any talking points centered on DEI or political messaging. He warned Marvel execs, Bob Iger and Kevin Feige, that defending a show seen as hollow could tank his brand and cost him fans. But Marvel wasn't budging. They reportedly told Downey his support was built into his expensive return contract for upcoming films like Avengers, Doomsday. If he wanted back in the MCU, this was the price. For many fans, this confirmed their worst fear. Marvel was forcing legacy heroes to prop up broken stories. It wasn't just a bad show anymore. It was a desperate machine, spinning its wheels and dragging everyone down with it. Right after the backlash peaked, Disney did what Disney does best. They issued a glossy press release calling Ironheart a massive success. Except, no one was buying it. There were no viewership stats, no milestone celebrations, no trending charts to back up the claim. Just vague language and forced positivity. And that silence, it spoke volumes. Normally, when a Marvel show crushes it, Disney floods social media with numbers. 300 million minutes. #1 in the world. But with Ironheart, crickets. Not a single infographic. Not one billboard, just radio silence and deflection. Insiders claim Bob Iger is in full-on panic mode. One leaker even described him as melting down behind closed doors. Streaming subscriptions are down, merchandise isn't moving, and Ironheart was supposed to be the next wave. Instead, it's looking like a liability. And that's when the rumors started flying. Here's the part no one at Disney wants to say out loud. Ironheart Season 2 isn't happening. There's been no official cancellation, but the writing's on the wall. Normally, Marvel drops hints about production, casting, or teaser art within weeks of a new season being greenlit. But with Ironheart, nothing. No leaks, no location scouting, no crew hires, just total silence. It's as if Marvel is hoping the whole thing just disappears. And maybe that's the plan. Quietly phase Riri Williams out, skip the backlash of a formal announcement, and focus attention elsewhere, like Fantastic Four or Deadpool 3. Because if they announce a cancellation now, it confirms everything the fans were saying. When all else fails, bring in the devil. Marvel's boldest Hail Mary to save Ironheart wasn't a better script or tighter direction. It was a last-ditch effort to blow minds with a demonic twist. Reports started flooding in that Sacha Baron Cohen, yes, that Sacha Baron Cohen, had been secretly cast as Mephisto, the sinister, soul-stealing villain fans have been obsessing over since WandaVision teased him in blurry background shots. The strategy was simple: hype up the mystery, unleash the fan theories, and create just enough buzz to distract from the chaos behind the scenes. And for a hot minute, it worked. Mephisto started trending. Reddit exploded with speculation. YouTubers scrambled to decode every frame of leaked footage, convinced Marvel was finally delivering something big again. But then came the cold reality. This is still Disney Plus, and Disney isn't exactly known for embracing demonic horror, eternal damnation, or morally gray soul deals, especially not in a PG-13 streaming show targeting a broad audience. The second fans remembered who was behind the curtain, the excitement collapsed. Suddenly, Mephisto's coming turned into, yeah, but he's probably just gonna hand out friendship bracelets in hell. Even longtime Marvel stans started roasting the idea. One viral post joked, "Can't wait to see Mephisto teach Riri a lesson about teamwork in the Underworld's community center." Another said, "This ain't the devil, this is Dollar Tree Loki with a tan." It's the same playbook Marvel's been leaning on for years now. When a project flops, throw in a surprise cameo and hope it sticks. But the fans aren't buying it anymore. They're burnt out, cynical, and painfully aware of when they're being baited. So if this was Marvel's secret weapon to reignite interest in Ironheart, it didn't just miss. It may have pushed fans even further away, because you can't tease hell and deliver middle school detention, not in a post-Infinity War world. Ironheart wasn't just a standalone misfire, it was supposed to be a critical puzzle piece in Marvel's next big move, the launch of the Young Avengers. Picture it, Riri Williams leading the charge alongside Ms. Marvel, Echo, America Chavez, Kate Bishop, and maybe even Speed and Wiccan. On paper, it sounds like a dream team. In execution, it's looking more like Marvel's most disconnected disaster yet. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. None of these characters have landed. Ms. Marvel had charm, sure, but struggled with viewership and momentum. Echo barely made a ripple. America Chavez was introduced in Multiverse of Madness and then vanished. And now, Ironheart, the one meant to carry them forward, has flatlined. What's missing isn't just popularity, it's chemistry. The original Avengers worked because they earned it. Years of sacrifice, pain, ego clashes, heartbreak, and personal evolution. We watched them grow. We cared. This new generation, it feels like they were picked out of a spreadsheet. No shared trauma, no foundational arc, no emotional anchor tying them together. Just 6 characters with overlapping vibes and no clear direction. One fan summed it up perfectly. The original Avengers felt like destiny. This feels like a group project nobody showed up for. And Marvel seems to be barreling ahead anyway, hoping nostalgia and synergy can carry what storytelling no longer does. But fans can smell desperation, and they're not impressed. Because if this is the future of the MCU, it's starting to look like a reboot nobody asked for. You'd think after a misfire like Ironheart, Marvel would pause, reflect, recalibrate, maybe even apologize. Instead, they doubled down. Insider leaks now claim that Disney is actively exploring spin-offs for Ironheart's side characters. Yes, characters who barely made it past 5 minutes of screen time and had all the charisma of a background extra in a CW pilot. The name that keeps popping up? Zelma Stanton. If you're asking who, you're not alone. She appeared briefly, had no real development, and disappeared just as fast. But that's not stopping execs from reportedly pitching her as the lead of her own Disney Plus show. Because in their eyes, the brand is still strong. The problem, they think, isn't the content, it's the audience. And fans aren't having it. X, formerly Twitter, lit up instantly. Spin-offs from a show that couldn't even finish a coherent plot? Peak Disney logic. They're building skyscrapers on a crumbling foundation. It's not just risky, it's embarrassing. Back in Marvel's golden era, spin-offs happened because the audience demanded more. Loki, Wanda, Bucky. Even lesser-known characters like Agatha earned their spotlight through emotional investment and critical buzz. But Ironheart? It hasn't earned anything. And yet Disney's already greenlighting expansion packs like it's a video game DLC drop. It's not about story anymore. It's about quotas, pipelines, and maintaining IP value, even if the story itself is falling apart. And if you ask the fans, that's not just tone deaf. It's insulting. Because what made Marvel special wasn't its brand, it was its heart. And that's something spin-offs can't fake. Ironheart was never supposed to break Marvel, but that's exactly what might be happening. This wasn't just another bad show, it was a warning sign. A flashing red light that Marvel's formula is failing. That heartless scripts, hollow characters, and checkbox diversity aren't enough to carry a universe. The fans who made the MCU a cultural force, the ones who cheered for Tony, cried for Natasha, and stood in theaters for Avengers and Assemble, are now walking away. Not because they don't want more heroes, but because they don't recognize these stories anymore. The MCU was once about human emotion, moral stakes, heroes we believed in. Now, it feels like corporate strategy in a cape. So, what happens next? Can Fantastic Four reignite the spark? Will Avengers? Doomsday bring back the magic? Or is this the beginning of the end? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Marvel can turn it around? Or is this empire really crumbling? Smash that like button, share this with someone who misses the MCU's golden age, and stick around, because Hollywood's chaos, it's just getting started.